Hi, Misha here, and yes, we're finally going to talk about KUSA. KUSA, as my speech says, Kalashnikov-USA, the situation. And this is my KP 104 76239 12.5-inch barrel with a permanently attached extension from CNC Warrior, Bulgarian style. And of course, when I did that, I could put a 5.5 millimeter AK-100 series stock on it. You've seen it before. It's a reliable gun. And this and the KR9 are the two that I opted to keep from that company, which is ostensibly gone. The question is it gone forever, or will it reemerge? We'll talk about that, do a little shooting, whatever. And as always, if you could, especially if you'd like to get kind of up-to-date videos on current news, which are a lot harder to do than you might think, just because timing, check out Patreon and support us over there. Come on the live streams, starting to do those more regularly again. And everything else, liking, sharing, subscribing, telling folks about us really does help out. And as always, this is just kind of my info that I have at the moment. And what I've inferred, the situation changes daily. So, do my best. But first, let's pop off a few rounds. This has been a very good, solid, reliable gun. It has. We've had it out to the range more than a few times. I do have a more traditional magazine in it this time. I just have a couple of these out here at the cabin I kind of keep as shooting ones. Of course, KUSA does make a replica AK-103, 104 style mag that's pretty good. I mean, it looks very close, and that's the deal. The reason people were excited, myself included, after the ban on Kalashnikov concern, formerly Izhmash, in June of 2014, we could no longer get Saigas, and that would be rifles and shotguns included. And that sanction isn't going to be lifted anytime soon. So the SGL 21s, 31s, the SGL 12 shotgun, and all parts and accessories, because the sanction wasn't on guns per se, it was actually on American companies doing business with the Russian company. And it was part of a whole list of companies, many of them not even firearms related, revolving Crimea, not to get into the politics of it. But either way, KUSA finally came out in 2019 with the KR9, KP9, the Vitiaz clones at 9mm, and we never had a Saiga 9 here. Although the Saiga 9s were supposed to come at some point, we never did get them. And that's why I decided to keep this and not the KR-103. As cool as the KR-103 is, it's an AK-103 clone copy with fixed or folding stock. So basically an SGL-21. We've had those available. We never did get an AK-104, 105, 102 gun. And of course, as I'm sure you know, that means the 12-inch barrel, standard length gas, all that good stuff.
It's a plane flying over. Mother, will they drop the bomb?
And initial impressions were good. My KR9 is an early one. However, this KP104 is a late one. These didn't come out till recently. And reports of issues, I believe that people had them. I do. But you know how the internet is. It tends to magnify things. And I've had more than a handful come through my shop. So my sample size is not just one or two. I'm not saying it's 1,000, but you know, I've handled roughly over the years 50 or more KUSA guns. I'm estimating here. And they did make some oopsies, but there were not reports of trunnions breaking, barrels bursting, bolt lugs shearing off, things of that nature. Rather, there were a couple of cases of ugly rivets, and there was the infamous safety selector issue where they put the ones meant for the KS-12, their shotgun, the Saiga 12, in their rifle calibers. That will fit, but it won't work properly. That was an honest oopsie. It was also done right after 2020, 2021 COVID. So a lot of workers were either new or hadn't worked on it. Was an oopsie. I also kind of speculate that it was a supply issue where they had one and thought, well, this will work. Not so much. There were a few also reports of more severe QC issues that required that. I don't want to be a defender, but I will just say, just on a live stream a couple of days ago, someone reported having a loose gas block to the point they could move it on a Romanian Kuger RH-10. My point is, all guns have QC issues. I did a video a couple years ago where I sold my Arsenal SLR 106 CR to keep this gun. A bit of a controversial decision. And there were plenty of Arsenal SLR 106s that had some issues. Heck, look at this SAM 5 issues. Everyone has issues. It just happens. I know we all wish it wouldn't. We all wish we lived in a perfect world of sunshine and rainbows, unicorns and cupcakes maybe, but we don't. KUSA's response was pretty good. To be fair, Palmetto State PSA has made several oopsies over the years. And one thing you always hear about them is, hey, their customer service is great, their warranty is great. And they do tend to respond to them. KUSA did acknowledge the oopsie with the safety and sent out replacements to all of us. This gun had the wrong safety in it. And they usually threw in an extra mag or something for our trouble. They might have been slightly slower to acknowledge it than some would have wished, but they did acknowledge it. So I can't really say more fair than that. Same thing goes with the cracking dust cover issue on the KR9 or KP9. Most of them I saw were the pistols. On the 9mm early on, they were getting stress cracks back here. To be fair, it was a cosmetic crack. I have more than a few parts kits that have cracks there. It's just an area, especially with the Vitiaz type guns. And they did offer replacements on those, repairs, replacements. That is good. I wouldn't say they quite matched PSA's level of customer service, but worlds better than what Arsenal has done for their goof-ups. It's pulling teeth just to get Arsenal to admit it. And Century Arms, they basically don't even give warranties with their guns. I mean, in theory, there's a 1-year warranty, but it actually starts from the date of when the gun that came in the gun shop got it, not the date the customer bought it. It's a whole thing. And yeah, getting Century to warranty. The problem also with Century is, even if they do say they're going to do warranty repair on your gun, do you really want them to? It's Century. So I'm going to say that KUSA was pretty good when they did make mistakes, because we want to talk about why they are no longer in business, at least ostensibly. And I don't think it was the QC mess-ups. Honestly, they made more good guns than bad, and the ones that had issues, they were typically simple things to fix, like the safety. Maybe the finish wasn't as nice. Should they have happened? Again, no. No, they should not have. But we have to live in the real world. There were a few reports of out-of-battery issues with the KR9s. Again, I'm not saying they didn't happen, but they seem to be pretty relatively small reports. And fixable. And it seems to be the thing we've seen since the 80s. Back in the 80s, IMI had to do a bit of a recall and retrofit to their Galils because the firing pins were really meant for military primers, hard primers, all that stuff. The Vitiaz is the same way. So, with some commercial ammo, some brass case, what was funny to me is around the exact same time, the CZ Scorpion Evo 3, a gun that had been on the market since 2015, was also having out-of-battery discharge issues. Again, these things happen. It is a direct blowback gun, though, so it wasn't like it wasn't locking. It was more like premature detonation. That's kind of how subguns used to work sometimes. Either way, that was probably the biggest one I heard, but I don't think there were just hundreds of them doing it. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like it was a couple of dozen guns, especially when, that meant all kinds of things. And let's be fair, it's not like PSA's 9mm AR or AK attempts haven't had their own issues. It's just one of those things. But no, the bones of the gun seem good. The barrel, the trunnion, the bolts, the parts that are gone in here. Those come from subcontractors. And that's the root of one of the issues. Moving on to the actual assembly by KUSA. Their production floor, their workers, aside from picking up the wrong part now and again, honestly seem pretty good. I've seen a lot worse assembly. I really have. Just trying to be honest with you. I think they delivered a relatively unique gun, and that's the problem in the American AK market. It's hard to make it if you're just doing another AKM. You need to have something special and unique that no one else has. And KUSA does or did. Yeah, I know Palmetto State and a few others claim to make an AK-101 or an AK-103. I've gone over in detail in other videos why, even if they're a good gun, they're basically a more traditional AKM with modern furniture put on them. KUSA didn't do that. Point to point, from things like the receiver to the trigger guard, the top cover, even the gas piston, and even the muzzle device, even having the 5.5 hinge pin, they are nearly identical to the Russian version, be it from the military rifle or the Saga. In fact, I wouldn't say they're a one-to-one clone, but they are close. Very close. They're pretty close. And really the changes are just made to accommodate American manufacturing, or just even sometimes modern manufacturing. And there's a couple that are just kind of practicalities. But they get so much right. For example, you do have an XY marked receiver. You even have the proper hump for the trigger pin, proper dimple, proper rivet placement, including the bump rivet here. You even have the reinforcing plate above the pistol grip, something that the Sagas did not have. Proper rear trunnion. It's funny, as some say that the rivets back here are kind of dimpled in or mooned in to the receiver, kind of mushing it. I remember the exact same thing being said about the Saga SGL 2194s and 3194s back when those were available. And their copy of the stock is correct with the storage compartment. And unlike the Sagas we have, it actually does not have the cutout here for the civilian use. Now my top cover we'll talk about in a minute. The handguards are correct, handguard retainer, and this is a proper Russian style front sight device, gas block, dealy whopper. Even the cleaning rod has the step in it, and it is 24mm threads, long collar. And for this one they did replicate the correct device. This isn't the same as an AKSU, a crank, because it only has the one step and it's slightly shorter. The expansion chamber is smaller. And I put a Russian AKSU sling on it just for fun. But not close enough for me. There were a few things that I did swap out on this. One thing I did replace was the top cover. I just happened to have a spare Russian one, and it seemed like it fit better. It actually is a little tight. The one that this comes with is a smooth top cover. And actually this safety selector. I think it's Polish. I put it on when the wrong one came with it, and even though I got the right one, I don't know, it was on, and I put it on another gun. The barrel on these started off as button rifled, but chrome lined, but more recent versions are cold hammer forged and chrome lined, so they did improve. Now, some of the guns still do have the traditional, button rifle barrel. Forged trunnion. Probably the biggest thing for this is the rear sight. These shipped with, I should say, 1,000 meter. But 500 is correct for the short ones. Now, I simply put one on. It's very easy to do. And the reason for using the standard rear sight, most would not notice. And frankly, that would be a whole new part they'd have to make for just one series. It was an economic choice. I agree with him. Would I have liked them to have the correct rear sight? Yes, but it would have probably bumped the price up $50 to $100, and for most folks, probably not worth it. So, take it for what it is. But see, I did replace a few parts on this, and from my experience, most Russian parts do drop in with typical amounts of fitting that you find for any Kalashnikov type gun. And I could point out similar things with the KR9 and KR103. The point is, 9 out of 10 things are the same as you would find on a Saiga. I'm happy with it. A little bit of modding there, including, as I originally said, turning it into a carbine. That was, back when we weren't sure about braces. Also, I just really do like this stock. They do have a pretty decent brace they make. Kind of a triangle shape. But the extension, and to be fair, getting that brake back out, if I had this on, this is how far it would stick out versus this. Is that really worth SBRing for? On the other hand, if you're like Fox and like running a suppressor, it very well might be. Your mileage may vary, and I might change my mind later. Now Fox with the KUSA.
Like a little top rider, making it rain dirt all around us.
Raining dirt.
This is a good one to keep, Joe Dirt.
So, why are they out of business? They made a good product. They seem to be shipping reasonably on time, as much as anyone. It had to do a lot with their choices, their finances. They spent way too much money on a very, very posh headquarters, corporate facility. I'm sure there are pictures on the internet. They didn't exactly scrimp on their manufacturing floor, but if you're going to put money, in my opinion, have your headquarters when you're still a relatively young company in a freaking trailer. Put all your money back into the product itself. And they didn't. On top of that, they spent oodles in previous years on SHOT Show, booze setups, over the top. And not just SHOT Show. They put a lot of money and time into just glitzy advertising. And while that might attract some people, I do believe most folks in the gun world, we're a pretty conservative group. Just give us a good gun without a lot of flash and bang. Maybe I'm wrong. And they did. This is a smooth gun. It really is. And it's a fun gun. It won, along with the KR103, Fox over. He was, for whatever reason, very anti-KUSA before we started shooting these a couple of years ago. And now, he likes them. Yeah. It's unique, and I don't know.
Well, it's a cool gun, and who knows, could be a great piece of history.
Yep. Yeah, almost. It's the same reason I kept one of the HMG set me L's. Sometimes those companies that go out, I'm not saying it's a value thing, but it's at least a talking point of, hey, this company once existed.
Yeah, I'll agree. There's been a few of those
Yeah.
that we've picked up
That'd
over
be a
the
good
years.
SBR candidate too. I've always loved the 12-inch barrel AK. I think
I
it's
agree.
that nice split in the.
Yeah.
Some reason I like the M4 carbine.
Well, and with this being, modern AKM, you can do so much to it. You SBR it, change your grip, you can put your pick rails on it. To me, it's the perfect for the old school AK lover, but also got enough new squeeze in it that it'll bring the young folk around. But no, I do like this. It's a good gun, man.
But they put way more money into advertising, and that's not even getting into what they maybe paid their CEOs and people on the board. I don't know that information. What I do know is, as I mentioned earlier, a lot of these parts came from subcontractors, and they're pretty notorious for not paying on time or even at all their subcontractors. You can only get so far on credit. And that's basically what they did. The business equivalent of running up the credit card bill. And then when it came due, putting it on another credit card instead of paying things off. They got severely underwater with their parts suppliers. And if you can't get new parts, you can't sell guns. And even when they would get lucky and make a batch of guns and sell and make some profit, instead of using that money to pay things off, they would do more glitzy advertising or, rent a new special office space. Priorities, their priorities were upside down. Their priorities were fucked, is what I'm trying to say. And that's why they went out of business. That's why they had to file for Chapter 11. At least part of it. There's other things behind the scenes, I know. But to me, that's the big thing. It wasn't their product, either concept, because it was unique, or execution. They did quite a good job. They honestly reproduced a Saiga in America better than I thought anyone could. Was it 100% perfect? No. But when they did make changes, as we already looked at, they were logical. And I can forgive them for that because, they're producing to make profit. The problem was when they made that profit, where they put it. When news got out about 4 months ago or so that they were, filing Chapter 11, which I believe they did in, July? And I'll be honest with you, I don't really closely follow that kind of news. I kind of just wait to see what's going to happen. So with that, what is going to happen? Because, it's not actually 100% over yet. And the day comes to an end. Very nice evening out here, first week of fall. Just thought I'd remind you of that. That's really why we enjoy getting out shooting guns like the KUSA. Collecting's fun and all, and it's a big part of it. Clone building and replicating, it's fun. I don't know how seriously I take it, but it's a lot of fun. But for us, it's really about enjoying time with friends and family. So you know how HMG tried for years to make their quote-unquote MP44 STG-44 cloner copy? And then now it's at Palmetto State, and that's all going on. They kind of bought the line. That's ostensibly what's been happening behind the doors all summer. Various parties, various other entities in the firearms business, be they foreign or domestic, have looked at picking up KUSA, or RWC, if you prefer that name, or elements of it. But for various reasons that I won't get into, and some of it's confidential anyway, the deals haven't worked out. A lot of it has to do with the money that is owed to the creditors. But there's other concerns. But the reason so many people are interested, people want to bring Saigas and similar guns to the market, not to mention magazines and parts and other things that they were doing. Plus, there were several things on the horizon. I can tell you that 545 was already getting into the prototype stage. an AK-74M was coming. And I was really crossing fingers for an AK-107, AK-108. And who knows just what they had the know-how to build beyond that. There's potential in the intellectual property there. But unfortunately, there's not a whole lot of stock and inventory, either of parts or rifles. They were cupboards or bare situation early this year. They didn't have 500 or 1,000 guns or even parts for guns they were sitting on. That was the problem. They didn't have the stuff to make more guns to pay off creditors because they owed the creditors money, and they were not going to deliver more top covers or barrels until they got paid. I don't blame them. But the intellectual property, the knowledge, maybe some of the tooling, that's worth something, quite a bit, to enthusiasts. And I don't think KUSA brought these guns to market at a bad price. I know people always want stuff cheaper. But when you consider pretty much every part on this gun has to be unique to it. Can't just be like bog standard AKM, even bog standard AK-74. They're making everything. That costs a lot of money and time. Not to mention, the way you make a Kalashnikov isn't exactly conducive to modern manufacturing. It was cheap and, how should I say, efficient by the standards of the 1960s, when labor was different. It's only in limited ways that, say, CNC tooling can be used for a Kalashnikov, and that's one of its Achilles heels. That's why I don't mind that some things are billet on this. It's a way to try to modernize production while not sacrificing quality. And for the most part, I know in theory billet isn't as strong as forging, but it's a lot stronger than casting, and it's one of those things where it's strong enough that if you wear it out or break it, you can probably just afford to replace it. My opinion. Your mileage may vary again. Keep that in mind. This is all my opinion. So I'm recording this in mid-September. Actually, it's getting on towards late September, I suppose. Right now, yes, they filed bankruptcy. The website's still up. I just checked this morning. Not saying you can put orders, how far it'll go, but it's still up. There are still interested parties in at least purchasing the intellectual rights. There are still negotiations going on. But there are also still creditors that are mentioned in the filing of Chapter 11 needing pay. And I don't even know how many customers are waiting on guns, people that pre-ordered like the 101. And again, this could change tomorrow. This could change before I even get this video out. I'm at the cabin, so, that might be a minute. It is what it is, guys. But I am reasonably optimistic, much as PSA took over the MP44, that in some shape or form, under some company, we will see the KP104, the KP9 return. And I'm hopeful that if they take off again and they can still produce them at a reasonable rate, we'll see new offerings from whoever picks these up. Now, will KUSA still operate under that name? It's a good name. It has a certain cachet to it, but it also has a bit of a stigma. One huge misstep they made, although I thought it was hilarious, was the whole Bonnie Rotten thing. I don't care, but I do think it kind of like the whole Blitz thing isn't my bag. It wasn't a good look. And who knows what she charged. Again, priorities. Instead of paying her, pay off a creditor, guys. And that's just it. Whoever starts this up again, pay your creditors, focus on making a good gun. And when you do have a QC oopsie, which you will, we all do, admit it and make it right with your customers. Again, mine came with the wrong safety. They fixed it, and they sent me a mag for my troubles. Cool. And it was easy to change out, no big deal. Now, if I got one that had really horrible rivets or a rusty finish, that'd be a different story. Fortunately, I haven't. But I respect those that have, and that sucks. And that should have never left the factory. And that's really, if you're going to be building a gun, you need a guy at the door, figuratively speaking, that's doing that final QC check. Because we're all human, we all let stuff slide, we all have a bad day, we all have other things in our mind, and just, stuff slips out. Oopsie. Cool. Fix it. Palmetto State has shown the value of transparency and good customer service. So learn from that. Don't pull an Arsenal. Just be straight with your customers. And I think that will help with the price tag, because I don't want them to lower the price, because that usually means they're lowering the quality. They're cheapening out. If nothing else, they're not letting that guy do final QC at the door. And that might have been what happened. They tried to get their prices down, and they cut a couple of QC steps. I don't know. I'm speculating. But I think we will see them. If you find one of these at a good price, I'd pick it up. They're good guns. We've pretty much tested every major product they've had, not every variant, but every major product. But don't pay out the nose. Don't worry too much about them gone forever, forever alone type thing. I think one way or the other, and it might take a couple of years, but we'll see something return. So, pick one up, because they probably won't be available for a while. Could be completely wrong about that, but don't pay out the nose, please. Don't lose your mind. These are still U.S. made AKs. Cool pattern, but I don't know what collector value they'll have in the future. They might. I mean, it does say KUSA. It is pretty cool, but that's my suggestion. If you do own a KP9, KR9, I would suggest getting extra mags. They are out there. They made them quite large numbers. Of course, for the 103, 104, any AK mag will work, although I do think the replica 103 mags that they offered were pretty cool. They were metal reinforced. I'll put it like this. I'm happy with my decision to sell the 106 and keep this. And I'm still super stoked 5 years later to have a KR9. Well, that's about all I have to say. I wish I knew more information. None of us knows the future, guys, but that's just my opinion. It's hard to keep a good idea down. And how'd this get in my hands? Yeah, obviously, I've owned both Kalashnikov Concern / Izhmash Izhevsk originally, and Molot products, which were sanctioned not in 2014, but 2017 for a number of years. And we did have this out shooting, but that's really a topic for another video. I just thought I'd end here as a little teaser. Why not, for some fun? So it's about where we're at on KUSA for now, but it will change. Feel free to drop comments. Let us know any new news. Let us know your experience with KUSA products. And as always, please do like, share, and subscribe. And if you'd really like to help, check out Patreon or participate in the live streams. With that, this is Misha. Catch you very soon next time.